NWS Columbia spotters. This is going to be a quick hitter that goes over our weather hazards, how to report, what to report, when to report, etc., and just goes over basic things that are considered important from the basic spotter training, but is just really meant to be a refresher course. This video is intended to be a refresher training for current spotters who have already completed a formal spotter training, whether it be the basic spotter training or something more advanced than that. This video should be watched to refamiliarize yourself with topics that may be fuzzy if it has been a while since you became a spotter. If you have not completed the basic spotter training with our office or another office, you should have a certificate of completion. Please do that instead of watching this video. Again, this video is not intended to be a full spotter training. It's intended to be a refresher. And if you are a basic spotter and are interested in taking a course to further your understanding or to just go more in depth, sign up for an advanced spotter course, or you can even take the basic spotter course again. Usually there is availability during the spring with our office or with different organizations that are available to the public. So links to these will be available in the description below. So here's the basic outline for this. We're quickly going to go over the weather hazards that we find across our area, the severe weather reporting procedure, outlooks, watches, and warnings, and monitoring severe weather. So you all know, you've already taken the basic spotter training, so you really know what kind of hazards plague central South Carolina. Generally speaking, from severe thunderstorms, it's going to be lightning, flash flooding, damaging winds, large hail, and occasionally tornadoes. So we do have a little bit of a localized maximum of severe weather days per year across the Carolinas in the southeastern United States, where we see between 30 and 35 days per year where we have at least one tornado, wind, or hail report within 25 miles. And that really is a maximum across a lot of the country, honestly. You can see most of the maximas are between 30 and 35 in Mississippi, northern Alabama, eastern Tennessee, southeastern Missouri, etc. So we're really on par with a lot of places when it comes to having severe weather threats across our area. Now, severe weather it does have a definition, and this applies to all offices across the country. Winds greater than 58 miles per hour, hail greater than 1 inch in size or quarter size, and or a tornado. Now, you could throw flash flooding into this, but we have a separate warning for flash flooding, a flash flood warning. And it doesn't technically, you don't have to have a severe thunderstorm to get flash flooding, but a lot of times the threats are concurrent where you'll have damaging winds and training thunderstorms, and you can get flash flooding and damaging winds within the same event. So it is important to note that flash flooding can fall under this kind of umbrella and is important to report as well. So let's get into it. Let's do a quick refresher of severe thunderstorm winds real quick. We do have a local maxima across the area, really in our northern counties, but across the general portion of the Midlands and the CSR, you're seeing between 20 and 25 days per year with at least one report of a severe thunderstorm gust or damage within 25 miles of a given point. So it's important to note that this is a very common threat that you'll see across our area. And generally, this is going to be the biggest threat you're going to have from severe thunderstorms and the things to look for the most when you are spotting for National Weather Service in Columbia. Severe thunderstorm winds form from the clouds. Obviously, they rise and form the thunderstorm, and the precipitation forms and it falls and drags air back to the ground. And it's important to note that drier air sometimes actually helps to create stronger downward motion, and it can be damaging and result in a downburst. This is the kind of thing you're often going to find in a summertime pulse severe thunderstorm, where you get the thunderstorm to go up, it gets a precipitation core, there's no wind shear or anything to organize the thunderstorm, and so the rain just falls right back down in the same area. And the reason that the drier air actually creates stronger downward motion is because as it evaporates, it cools the air, creating more dense air, and that falls more quickly to the surface and creates a downburst like you see in this graphic down here on the right. And these oftentimes you can see winds sub-severe that might take leaves off trees or anything, but we really are concerned once the wind speeds are approaching 58 miles per hour or greater, and those really start to cause a lot of the damage you'll see from severe thunderstorms. This is just an example of what a microburst or a downburst might look like. This is a local example too, so it's nice to know that we can kind of see these things across our area. And what you're going to be looking for right here in the center of the screen is this big kind of white blob that just suddenly appears. Here it comes. right there and rushes quickly to the surface. Oftentimes that's what you'll see in a strong downburst as a pulse severe thunderstorm goes up and then comes down, and the core of its rain and maybe small hail comes crashing down to the surface, and that can create winds 60, 70 miles per hour. And that really can create that poses a threat to life and property. These storms are very difficult to warn for, so it is critical that we get reports from you, our spotters, verifying our warnings, verifying what these thunderstorms are doing, because some days, it's kind of a difficult decision on whether or not to warn, because these pulse severe thunderstorms can go up, and between the 5-minute radar scans, you may not get a clear picture or a clear signal in the middle of the storm that you've got a core. And so it's important to know that these storms are actually producing wind damage so that we kind of know what to look for in future storms that day or on a different day, whatever. But they'll look, when they actually occur on radar, they'll look something like this, where you have diverging winds in the velocity signature. So you've got these blues and greens, which are going towards the radar, and these reds and pinks, which are going away from the radar. And on the lowest tilt, you'll see that a lot of times. Now, you don't see it with every storm, because the radar beam goes up as it goes away from the radar. It goes up in the atmosphere, so you're not always looking at the lowest levels. But generally, if you get one that's close enough to the radar, you'll see a signature like this in the bottom left. The damage pattern on the ground from downburst, typically you're gonna get a stationary kind of thing where you get the strongest winds just away from the center. But sometimes you can get the radial and the twisting, but typically those are from straight line winds and squall lines. So one other damaging wind threat that you'll have across the area, typically in the springtime along cold fronts, is from a squall line. And associated with squall lines oftentimes are these shelf clouds. And so when you're out spotting, or there's a severe thunderstorm watch and you're at your house looking for something, you're looking for a signature, this shelf cloud is a classic signature for strong winds, heavy rainfall, and occasionally hail. Usually that hail around here will be pretty small, but it slopes down and away from the rain, and it moves away from the storm. And usually it's just moving with the storm. And so it's not necessarily an immediate thing. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 minutes when the heavy rain and the strong winds get there. But typically, if you're seeing a shelf cloud, you can pretty much anticipate that that strong wind gusts might be following that. And it's important to note that if you do see one of these, you can send a picture of this into our Twitter account. We won't issue like a local storm report or anything from that, but it is nice to know that we actually have a shelf cloud along a line of storms, because that can be indicative to us as well that there is strong winds actually reaching the surface, and that this thunderstorm complex is very organized. So it's important as a spotter to be on the lookout for something like this. Now, we want to urge safety with this. This is one of the reasons we're doing the refresher as well, that we want you, the spotter, to be just as safe as the regular person out in the public. We're going to give you the same safety tips that we give people at school talks or just regular talks in general. We want you to go to a sturdy shelter, lowest level interior room away from windows. We want you to protect your head. Some of the stronger wind gusts may be getting into the 70, 80 miles per hour. While they may be rare, they can be just as damaging as a low-end tornado, maybe an EF0 or an EF1. And especially if you are in a mobile home. Mobile homes can roll in winds that are upwards of 80 miles per hour or greater. And so, you need to have a plan in place during severe thunderstorms or during tornado warnings to protect yourself from the elements and to make sure that you're in a sturdy shelter that doesn't have any risk from the strong wind gusts. Tornadoes are another threat that we see across the area. Now, they're a little less common than damaging winds across this portion of the country, but they can still happen. If you'll remember, back in April of 2020, we had multiple tornadoes in the southern part of our area, including a violent tornado in Charleston's area. So they can happen. They can happen at night around here as well. So it's important to note that tornadoes do happen in this portion of the country. A tornado is a violently rotating column of air from a thunderstorm and is in contact with the ground. The funnel may or may not be visible. So you can see here on the left, this is a tornado, and it's got a funnel cloud that's all the way in contact with the ground. You can see the debris cloud there at the surface. That's important to note. You need to be looking at you need to keep your eye on the sky and on the ground. On the right image over here, you can see that it's not as clear. You see your funnel cloud, but if you weren't looking at the surface, you would just maybe think this is a funnel cloud. But because you have that debris cloud there at the surface, kicking up some dust or whatever that is, it is a tornado that's in contact with the ground and capable of doing damage. So as a spotter, it's important to note this, that not all you won't always see the clear-cut funnel cloud that is going from the cloud to the ground, but that does not mean that it's not in contact with the surface. You need to be looking for debris being kicked up by the tornado. And you can see here, this is just these are just two examples of a funnel cloud where you don't have obvious surface evidence that the column of air is in contact with the ground, so you could probably just call these a funnel cloud. And here's a local example of I don't know if I can get it to work. Well, hold on. Here's a local example of a tornado where, and I'll pause it here, you can see this wall cloud and you can see that it's clearly rotating, but there's not a funnel cloud in contact with the ground. But the evidence is there that there is a tornado in contact with the ground, because you can see this is over Lake Murray last August. You can see the water being picked up by the tornado and carried up into the cloud. I believe this was producing either EF1 or EF2 damage at the time. It was a fairly strong tornado. And it just goes to show that, what I was saying in the last slide, that it's not always apparent that the tornado is on the ground just by the funnel cloud. You need to be looking at the surface to see if there is evidence of the tornado making contact with the ground. You can see it again there, picking up the water. That is the clear sign that you have a tornado that's on the ground. So just be looking. Remember, keep your eye on the sky and on the ground. Tornadoes are a common occurrence across the southeastern United States. It's not as common here as it is in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, or in the Central Plains, but we're still seeing about up to one day per year where we'll have one tornado, a tornado within 25 miles of a point. So that's pretty good. You could see that's on the upper end of the scale here, especially compared to other parts of the country. But it just goes to show you that tornadoes are not an uncommon thing here, but they're not as common as some of our other threats like lightning, flash flooding, and wind damage. So it's something to keep in mind. Tornadoes are classified based on the damage that they produce, not directly on the winds. We don't really have a good way of measuring winds in every tornado. And even some of that instrumentation can fail at winds over 100 miles per hour. So it's really important for us as the National Weather Service to go out and do surveys based on the damage, and then we have different damage indicators that tell us how strong the tornado was based on that. So and it's also important to note that the size of the tornado does not always indicate how strong it is. So you can have a skinny tornado that's producing very, very intense damage, or you can have a fat tornado that may be not producing as much damage. Maybe it's over an open field or something, but it's important to note that the size is not always equal. And I want to reiterate this: tornado safety. Size does not equal strength. You need to treat tornado warnings just like anyone else in the public would. Seek a sturdy shelter, an interior room on the lowest level, or preferably a basement. I know there aren't a lot around here, but if you have a basement, then seek shelter there. You want to get away from windows, and you want to protect your neck and your head. You could take a pillow into your safe place. You could take a bike helmet in there, whatever it is to protect your head. Just be in an interior room on the lowest level of your home. You can see this is an interior bathroom in this home. You can see the rest of this home is collapsed and damaged. But if you sought shelter in here, you likely would be safe because this room is the last one standing in the house. And you can see in these examples, all of the people associated with this tornado damage survived in interior rooms or closet. And that is really just a testament to the importance of seeking shelter in that interior room or in that closet so that you are safe. And then after the tornado has passed or whatever has happened, after you are safe, you can report whatever it is, the tornado or the tornado damage, to us at the National Weather Service. We really do not want to put you in harm's way. So please seek shelter like the rest of the public would. Hail. Hail is another threat across the area. We'll quickly go through this. It's not as big a threat as damaging winds are across the area, but you can see that there is a little local maximum there in the foothills of the Appalachians where the melting layer is a little lower. They're higher in elevation. But really the peak of the hail threat is across the Central Plains, which makes sense. Hail forms when raindrops get sucked up into the updraft, go up into the freezing portion of the atmosphere and go up and down within the currents, especially the updraft currents, and grow until they're no longer able to be supported by the updraft. Really, the size of the hail is a good indication of how strong the updraft is and how strong the thunderstorm is. If you're getting 1-inch hail, the thunderstorm's pretty strong, but if you're getting 4-inch hail, that's a different kind of updraft and a different kind of storm. It typically ranges in size from as small as a pea up to softball size. But regardless of the size, please report please report the hail that you're seeing. If you're seeing pea-size hail, please report that. If you're seeing baseball hail, please report that. But please, like with tornadoes and like with damaging winds, please report it when it's safe to do so. And it's important to report hail, one, because it helps us verify our warnings and helps us to know what's actually going on. But two, it does cause damage. It does cause plenty of damage to siding, airplanes, roofs, cars, plants, you name it, it can damage it. So it's important to send in those reports when it's safe to do so. Lightning is another threat from thunderstorms that is important to know about. You're not going to be reporting lightning into us. We'll know. We've got plenty of satellites, plenty of observations that really let us know that lightning is going on. But it's important to know that lightning does cause fatalities and does pose a threat to life and property across the United States. Thankfully, we've been on an overall downward trend in lightning fatality over the past 30 years. But still, when thunder roars, go indoors. Most of the lightning fatalities that occur are leisure related, but some occur in your daily routine or work. But really, just know, when thunder roars, go indoors. You can see that lightning can get up to 50,000 degrees. No one wants to get struck by that, and like with anything, we really don't want you to get injured or anything worse by trying to send a report into us. So like with any of the other threats that we face across this area, tornadoes, wind, hail, flash flooding, please seek shelter and report things when it's safe to do so. And the last major threat from thunderstorms that we're going to see is flooding. Now, flooding can occur from long duration rainfall events or from short duration, which would be thunderstorm related more than likely. Short duration is flash flooding. Long duration typically results in river flooding and is just called flooding. It is one of the biggest weather related killers, and it's because people drive through flooded roadways and don't realize how deep it is. It only takes 12 inches of moving water to sweep a car off of its tires, and nearly 70% of all flash flood related deaths involve automobiles. If you ever come across a flooded roadway, just remember this easy saying: turn around, don't drown. Flash flood related deaths are almost entirely preventable, as you can see here in this graphic. 70% involve automobile, so please turn around, don't drown. Have an example here locally. This was from the 2015 floods. This truck tried to move into a flooded roadway and got swept off of the tires, and the car started to get swept away. Thankfully, this person survived. This person was able to get rescued, but it takes just 12 inches of flowing water to sweep a car off its tires, and 18 to 24 inches to sweep larger vehicles off of their tires. So it's very, very important to remember: turn around, don't drown. So now we'll go a little bit into the severe weather reporting procedure that we want you to follow as a storm spotter in the National Weather Service Columbia area, but really you can report anywhere that you are to any National Weather Service. If you're on vacation in Florida and you see some hail, you can report it into them, and you'd follow similar procedures. So these are the kinds of things that we want you to report: measured or estimated winds greater than 50 miles per hour, and wind damage. If you've got down trees, power lines, damaged cars, that would be some strong wind. Anything like that that's wind damage related, please report that in via email, Twitter, calling us, whatever it is. Tornadoes or water spouts or funnel clouds. Significant flooding is important to report into us. This one might be something that people kind of forget. But significant flooding, whether roads are impassable or closed, water is moving into homes or businesses, or if you've got streets that normally do not flood when you've got heavy rainfall, if they're flooding, report that into us. That would be very helpful to help us kind of know what's going on, get some ground truth, know whether our warnings or our advisories are being verified out there, and then report hail of any size and report the largest piece that you find. Use the tell method for your report. What's the time? When did it happen? Be specific. What did you observe? The event. Be specific with that. Give us the kind of tree that fell, the tree limbs, the diameter of the tree limbs, the diameter of the hail, whether it was a funnel cloud or whatever it is. And then use your location. It's important to note that you can send in your address. If you're not comfortable with that, we completely understand. But if that's not the case, please send either the lat long or the nearest intersection for the damage. It is very, very helpful to us. It helps us to know exactly where this is going on, and it gives us ground truth to our warnings, to the radar, etc., the different tools that we have at our disposal. It's very important to do this. And examples of reporting wind damage include measured wind gusts. If you can measure wind gusts, please do so. I know that not everybody's going to have a home anemometer, but it is nice to get some estimated or measured wind gusts that are about as accurate as possible. You can estimate strong winds using the Beaufort scale, but if you can't get that, just report it to us, whatever trees you're seeing down, tree limbs down, or down power lines, or any structural damage that you see. Reportable hail sizes. Now this one can kind of get confusing, but if you do look on Google, there is usually a hail size chart that you can kind of compare it to, and then send us the closest thing in. So if you've got hail that's up to the size of golf balls, send us a picture of that on Twitter or in our email, and usually have it next to a golf ball or have it next to a ruler so that we can compare the size and get as accurate as possible. And here's that hail size comparison chart I was talking about. You can just Google this and it can help you to estimate your hail size. Now you can report severe weather or damage from any location. So like I was saying, if you're at the beach and it's not in our CWA, you can report it to a different office. You can report it if you're at let's say you're in Charleston, you can report severe weather to the Charleston office. Let's say you're at Fort Walton Beach in Florida, you can report it to the local National Weather Service there. It's important to send in the storm damage from any location that you're at, whether you're at home, shopping, work, vacation. The second point is really important. I really want to emphasize this. Please do not chase the weather. We are not storm chasers. We're not asking you to do that. Please only report any severe weather that you have when it is safe to do so. That's when the storm has passed, the warning has expired, after you've heard the last crack of thunder or seen the last bolt of lightning. Please report it when it is safe to do so. We do not want you to have we don't want to have a weather-related injury on our hands because one of our spotters is not seeking the safety precautions. So I really want to emphasize that. We really appreciate what you all do, but we want you to be safe as well. And if you're in a car, please pull over before you send the report. Don't tweet and drive. Don't try to call and drive or email and drive. Please pull over. If you see a tree down on the side of the road, just pull over, put your emergencies on, call it into the office or tweet it into the office. We don't want anybody to get hurt trying to storm spot. We will relay your report to the proper NWS office if needed. So if you do have something in Charleston's area and you call it into us, then we'll report it over to them. So most of your reports are going to be severe thunderstorm related, but like we've seen this past winter, all 4 of these can be things that we really need to help verify what's actually going on. And these are less common things. You're not going to see every winter, you're not going to see ice or snowfall accumulation, but like we saw with this past winter, many of us saw changes in precipitation type, ice accumulation, snowfall accumulation, and non-thunderstorm wind damage. So it's important to report these things in as well. You may not think to do that, but it really does help us to get ground truth on what's going on. And here are 6 basic steps to measuring snow. You likely could find this graphic on Google or on the National Weather Service webpage, but if you need to, you can pause this, take a screenshot of it or whatever. And stay in touch with us on Twitter or on Facebook or really your favorite social media, whatever it is. We're on Twitter and on Facebook. And then we have an email address that I'll show at the end here. But we really need your reports. And the easiest way to send it in real time is on Twitter using the hashtag CAE Spotter. That really can get these things in really quick, and we can look at them, look at your reports, see what's going on out there, verify our warnings, verify what's going on. It's really important to use this. And remember to use the tell method to your tweets. So you can see in this example, the weather spotter tweeted us on April 13th, 2020, let us know that a funnel cloud was observed at 12:45 p.m. You can see the time. The event is the funnel cloud, and the location is at Airport Boulevard at I-26 moving northeast. So pretty simple, just remember the TEL method: time, event, location. And these are just different ways to report. You can report via the web, weather.gov /CAE. But really, we would prefer you call it in, email it to us, nws.columbia@noaa.gov, tweet it to us at NWS Columbia, or relay it to us on Facebook, NWS Columbia. I do want to take a moment to thank you, our spotters, for not only being spotters, not only relaying reports in, but also taking the time to take this refresher course. I know this has taken some time out of your day. We really tried to just run through the important points that we wanted to hit so that we could refresh you, get you back up to date. But we do appreciate you, our spotters. We appreciate all the reports you send in. They are invaluable to our verification process, to letting us know what's actually going on, and to giving us ground truth to the weather. We really appreciate you. We hope you keep it up. Continue to send us in the reports, and send us in the reports on social media as well. If you have any questions about this training, any questions about really anything with spotter related, you can feel free to send us an email, nws.columbia@noaa.gov, and we'll get back in contact with you. Thank you for your time.